You can be your own therapist. And that's where you need to start. Before you go into seeing, a professional therapist, you might want to begin here, because they're going to have to take you apart, okay? And they're going to have to teach you fundamentals of healthy psychological, ways of processing healthy thinking before they do anything else. It's much the same as when you go to the doctor and the doctor takes your blood and they run tests on it and they come back and they say, hey, you got too much cholesterol, you got too much this, too much that. And then they'll give you simple things that you can do to adjust your situation. There's no surgery, right? Not necessarily any medication. They're just saying, hey, man, you need to eat some more vegetables. You need to do less of this. You need to do more of that. Hey, try to get out and walk some more, get some exercise, get some sun. Very, very simple things that you can do to lay the groundwork, to lay the base for good health. And it's the same thing with the mind. It's the very same thing. In order to be mentally healthy, there has to be fundamental things that you do, things that you just base the rest of your mental health on. And this, touches into the area of emotions, because as we've said before, your emotions or feelings are going to follow whatever your consistent thoughts are. So we've got to get you healthy. Now, I said in the first episode that even if it's extreme situations, right, where people really have serious mental problems, whether it's being bipolar, manic depressive, or PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, anything like that, the goal with any kind of therapy or work is to change beliefs, because that's what makes something crazy, right? That's what makes something unstable. That's what defines mental health in a negative way, is what do you believe? What do you perceive? How do you see things? Okay, so we can perform a lot of that cognitive therapy, right? That therapy on our minds ourselves by working with ourselves and learning to be more cognizant of the way that we process and the way that we think. This is something that most people, the majority of people, do not do. They do not work on their mindset. They do not work on their thinking. I hear from them all the time. I see it. Anytime I see somebody who posts way too many selfies, we got a mental issue. Anytime I see somebody who's constantly complaining online, we've got a mental issue. I'm not talking about crazy. I'm just talking about these are people who are not in control of their thinking, not self-aware. You think, well, if somebody's posting a bunch of selfies, they're obviously self-aware. Not in the right way. Not in the right way, because they're trying to fill a need, right? Why would they put themselves out there and post picture after picture after picture if there was not an objective in mind? There's something lacking where they feel they need this attention. They feel they need these accolades. They need people to come after them. And it's really sad when it comes to, especially when it comes to the beauty question. This can be for male or female, because it's something that's temporary. We're all going to get older, right? We're all going to grow older. So we have to, realize that things are not going to always be the way that they are. And so the more that we feed something in us, mentally and emotionally, that has the potential to dissipate over time, and we establish self-worth based on that, that's a bad thing to do. Because with time, that's going to deteriorate. And then what are you going to base your life on? If you've placed your confidence in the way that you look and your looks change, what are you going to do then? What will be your identity then? So people find their identity in all sorts of things. I've mentioned in previous series that people will find identity in being a victim. People will find identity in being the hero, right? People will find identity in, being ultra needy, right? That they can't get by without the ongoing support emotionally of other people. They find identity not in self-confidence, not in self-worth. They are essentially looking for definition to come from outside of them. So that's why they rely so heavily on what others think, which is why they are so susceptible to damage when they receive criticism. And so what a risky place to be for somebody like that when they're posting things about themselves on social media, because everybody and their grandmother now is on there to criticize you. You got a whole bunch of friends you've never met in your life. You don't know who the hell they are. They just sent you a friend request, or you sent them a friend request, and they're on your list. I got them too. But those people will chime in on things, and they can hurt your feelings. And so if you find your identity based on what others think about you, what others say about you, man, you're in a bad place if that ever goes south. You're in a bad place if that ever gets negative. So if we're going to fix ourselves, fix our own head, we've got to start with a measure of self-awareness. And so I can tell by people who complain too much online, people who post too much silliness, constantly post stupid things, right? They are buffoons, silly people, jesters, but they find identity in that, right? Or you have people who are perverse, or you have people that, constantly have to debate things politically. Again, these are all signs of instability. Well, how could somebody debating politically be instability? Well, for the very simple reason that they're not a politician. They don't work in the halls of Congress or Washington or even their state capitol. They're not involved in anything. All they do is watch news headlines, read blogs or news stories. That's all that they do. But they have so identified themselves with political partisanship that their literal day is made or broken based upon what happens in the political climate. Once those winds change, these people are blown off course. That's instability. Well, how can you say instability? Because it's not built on anything solid. If they were solid, then it wouldn't matter what winds blew. They remain steadfast. They are stable. So saying something is has instability or they are unstable, I'm not suggesting they're ready for the nut house. Okay, it's not an insult. It's just a reality. They are unstable in the sense that they are not grounded and in a fixed position, unmoved by what goes on around them, right? Because they're finding identity elsewhere instead of the value of knowing who you are, knowing what you believe, knowing what you're about, knowing what your goals are, and heading in a particular life direction and unmoved by fiery trials and the opinions of other people. Can you dig it? I hope you can.